Hello. Today I will be featuring a carrier. I don't think I have covered this one before, the Hiryu. This is the first time you actually get the 2-2-2 setup, which serves you extremely well both with the Hiryu and the Shokaku. And I happened to get matched with another carrier against double carrier, of course, as well. It's something I don't really like because I am quite confident in my own ability to outplay the enemy carrier player, but having to rely on a friendly carrier to often help you and so forth can be quite frustrating and something I'm not a big fan of. I send out my 2 torpedo squads first, and then I follow it up with the fighters. Torpedo squads are, of course, the primary damage dealers, and the fighters are your primary defense and scouting and so forth. The reason why I'm sending up the fighters next is because it's domination. So unlike in, for example, competitive, where you might send out a bomber and then you empty the bomber payload to get additional speed on the bomber and use it to scout, in random battles it's not that important, and I usually just send out my fighters second to be able to help out any DDs in case there's any sort of strikes coming towards them, or in general just help them spot any enemy deities as well. And the fighters are quite good at that. Meanwhile, of course, I'm sending my strike planes, I'm sending them up the left. The idea is, of course, to go strike the enemy carrier. When it's 2 versus 2, one of the most efficient tactics is to instantly strike out one of the enemy carriers, making it a 2 versus 1, which makes it much easier to control, because 2 versus 2 is in general quite the clusterfuck. Grouping my 2 torpedo bombers, my normal bombers are coming right after. You can see I queued them up to go around the north, then I'm queuing my bombers to do the same thing, and my ally is actually doing the same thing. Another thing you might note, trying to strafe these guys, not really succeeding. I'm just going to kite them away. It's okay, as long as they're not defending the carriers, I don't mind kiting these guys around. Trying to kite them back to my own planes, see if they take some additional damage, maybe lose some planes. And I'm just baiting them generally. I'm making them waste time. I don't really want to fight them because, well, 12 planes versus 8, it's obvious who's going to win, but I'm trying to keep him occupied so I can go in and strike. Now something else which is of quite importance, I'm already moving at full speed down towards C. You might notice that my team went for CB, enemy is trying to get AB. So in this case, obviously, you want to move towards C. You want to keep your friendly team between you and the enemy. Now, my ally, the Hiryu, is not doing the same thing, sadly. He doesn't understand to dodge it the same way I am. He's just basically sitting in spawn. He moved slightly in spawn, but hasn't bothered moving much, whereas I'm playing at 100% safe. Now, I found their independence. Of course, ideally, I would have liked to find the other carrier, the T7 carrier, but killing the T6 one will still give us a significant advantage, so it's well worth. Found the Hiryu now, but usually if you get into this situation, it's better to strike out the lower tier carrier and guarantee the kill than attempt to be greedy and go for the tier 7 carrier and then have his fighters intercept your strike on the way. So, well, this other guy shouldn't be wasting his bombs because this guy's already dead. I can just put fire on him and he's guaranteed dead. But it looks like my Hiryu mate here wasted his strike on this independence, which is a bit of a shame because he could have gone on and strike the Hiryu right after, since I could have pretty much soloed in there. I'm just trying to harass these bombers, or these torpedo bombers, trying to get strafes on, but this guy obviously knows what he's doing. He's actively dodging them all the time, moving them back and forth out of my strafes, which is of course intelligent play. I was hoping he would be more distracted because of what was happening in his base, but sadly that didn't happen. His actual strike was pretty pointless though, since he's actually striking someone who's already dead. Managed to nick off a few planes, but and hopefully hamper his strike enough. Now you see you can already see the enemy team. They're capping A and they're pushing down south. You want to keep constant eyes on the minimap when you're doing this. In my case, I'm constantly trying to keep my friendly fleet between me and the enemy. It's obvious they're trying to push down, so staying in spawn is obviously suicide. You never want to be an airfield. You never want to be that stationary carrier that gets caught. A good example is the enemy Hiryu. He still hasn't moved. He's sitting in spawn. So my DDs are already within range. They're gonna wreck him. He's dead. He can't escape anymore. You got Gnevnis over there that are extremely quick, and in general Russian gunboats, they're just so fast. Once they get within firing range, you're pretty much dead as a CV unless someone bails you out. And in this case, it's pretty unlikely anyone will be bailing him out. Of course, my friendly buddy doesn't really notice this, he's still sitting in there. So at this point I'm pretty certain he's a lost cause. Whatever, not my problem. People play the carrier how they wish, but he's a good example of what you shouldn't do. Now of course my planes have reloaded, so the first thing I get out once again is my torpedo bombers. Since the enemy has a lot of battleships and I want to be able to thin out that herd and affect it as much as possible, I group them up and I want to send them in one at a time. It's easy to deal with. If you don't group up your squads before sending them into strike, it's so easy to deal with them, since you can just control click the squads and shoot them down one at a time as they come, and you can also turn into them one at a time. But if you send all your squads at the same time, it's very hard to dodge them, and I'll show it as an example for this Bayern who's trying to actively dodge me. Oh, Mutsuki, can I trying to help my Mutsuki out? Set a strafe over the Mutsuki. I got 7, 8, 9 planes? Damn, that was a good strafe. Helped my Mutsuki buddy out, and that carrier was obviously dead. Now here you see why it was good I sent both these planes. This Bayern noticed the planes, he instantly turned right away, and he's trying to turn into one of the squads. And this is exactly why you have two squads. One squad drops from the side, the Bayern tries to turn away, tries to dodge, and then I drop him from the other side. So it makes it very, very hard to completely evade all the torpedoes when you do it like this. That's why you send both squads. But Sent here still shot down a couple of planes. In fact, he completely obliterated one of the squads. And if I would have sent my squads one at a time, he would have probably killed them both. Because Bayern has very strong anti-air. So that's why you split them up, or that's why you send them in at the same time. Doing the same thing with my bombers, of course. They're both going in together, not one at a time, because once again I got my flooding, forced him to repair, that's all I wanted. Actually, he hasn't even repaired, it's still flooding. Then I'm just going to strike him right away, I'm not going to wait. Usually you want to keep an eye out on your damage counter in the top right, and if the damage counter stops ticking, then it means he's repaired, and then you wait depending on what battleship it is. If it's a US battleship, you wait 20 seconds. If it's a Japanese, you wait 10 and so forth, and then you go in and strike them. This guy actually played it fairly smart, this Bayern. He didn't repair the flooding because he must have spotted my bombers, even though I tried to keep them away from him. He must have spotted them, and he managed to not get killed by the fires. He chose to eat a bunch of flooding damage in order to avoid being burned almost to death. Or well, with my RNG I'm not certain if it would have killed him. Regardless, good play by him, but he's pretty much low HP and pushed out of the fight regardless. Now, the Hiryu finally realized he needs to start moving, but it's much too late for him. You can see he's already caught by the enemy fleet because it took him too long to react. Or basically, he started moving after he was already caught, instead of moving preemptively. Whereas my positioning, I'm inside sea, and I got my entire fleet between me and the enemy fleet, and I'm continuing to kite them around the map. So anyone wanting to chase me is going to have to waste a lot of time doing it, which is perfect for me. Aircraft carriers is a lot about personal positioning, and not more than just pure striking. It's also about personal positioning and not being caught out, especially in smaller maps like this one, which many lower tier maps are quite small, and the risk of being caught out is quite real. Bayern, gonna strike him once again, sending in both my squads. He's slowing down, it seems. Yes, slowing down extremely harshly and turning into the planes. Interesting. I don't see it saving him though. I mean, he's got one flooding, and I got my bombers coming next. Wow, he actually only ate one torpedo. These lower tier battleships are so small, especially the Bayern. It's so small that he can actually fit sideways in between those squads. I did not even know that. I should have dropped him further away. That's what you get for not playing these lower tier carriers that much. But I could send my bombers and set a fire on him, but seeing as... well, the Hiryu died, but seeing as he's going to die anyways, there's no point wasting that. Instead, I'm going to see if I can force some repairs on a couple of guys. Meanwhile, my planes are of course spotting. I have one around B, one fighter plane around B, spotting all the battleships on the other side of the islands. And then I have one down in our base, spotting the Izakaze. So my fighters, even though there's no carrier, they're still doing their duty by constantly spotting the enemy and making sure that the enemy can't basically catch us by surprise. In this case, go for the Bayern, see if I can get some fires going. Gonna go for the other one because There's no point really saving this up because I got my torpedo bombers coming very soon, so if he wishes to repair this, that's okay. I'm trying to save my buddy who's fighting it out on B. And now it's pretty clear this is Akaze and Aoba, I assume. I think they're chasing me, or well, they're trying to hunt the second carrier. But because, once again, I'm constantly moving, I'm never stopping. Once you get past the lower tier carriers, the carriers are actually quite fast, so there's no reason for you to ever get caught by the enemy. Unless you basically you get caught with your pants down like this other carrier did, or like the enemy carrier did. It's very common for some reason. People don't understand just how quick their own ships are, and they get caught for no reason whatsoever. Now this actually has evened out. It's a 6 versus 6, and they are trying to get that middle cap. I see a pretty juicy target here, a Fuso that's moving extremely slowly. I'm not too worried about the New Mexico inside the cap. There's plenty of people who can shoot him and prevent him from capping it, so I don't see that as my duty. Instead, I'm going to try to get some drops on the Fuso. Of course, since it's moving so slow, I'll try to drop from a bit further away, see if I can get a bit of a converging. If you hold down Alt and you drop like this, you get a converging drop, which means it's easier to hit multiple torpedoes on a single target. About 20k damage. If I hit one or two more, it should be almost 30k damage. That's okay. Most importantly, I of course forced his repair, so this is where I'm going in with the dive bombers and try to get some fires going on him, since his repair will be on cooldown. Okay, our DD died, that's not the best. I'm obviously constantly keeping this Isokaze spotted for my team. That Isokaze must hate me. If you haven't been noticing, I'm constantly just been hovering that plane above that Isokaze, never giving him a chance, and it doesn't matter what enemy DD it is, always just keep him spotted, not give him a chance to do work. Our Gnevny should hopefully get rid of him fairly quickly. 5 versus 5 now, and my bomber's coming in. The Fuso, trying to get, of course, manual drop down the length of the ship. You always want to drop from bow to stern, never sideways. Nice, 2 fires, he can't repair them. Gonna see if I could get a third fire going while I'm at it. Meanwhile, I've got a high caliber from those fires, gonna see if I could get a third fire going. Kinda have to hit the front of his ship. Trying to drop a bit more in the front. Nah, not really. I think I hit the same spots where I already had fires, so I only got bomb damage and no additional fires going. But that's okay, I should be safe. You can see they're still chasing me around, or well, they are doing this circle maneuver they're doing. But I'm suddenly now, my carrier has actually moved all the way from my spawn to the enemy spawn. That's how much I've been actively positioning myself to make sure I never get caught. And once again, if you compare my positioning, you notice that the entire friendly fleet is once again between me and the enemy. And that's the way you want to keep it at all times. Always, always keep friendly ships between you and the enemy. If you find yourself in a position where you can't do that, well, obviously, well, it can happen that simply you get unlucky, but generally this should always be your goal. I'm plane spotting still the Isokaze, of course, because if you plane spot him, you'll spot his torps, make it easier for my Gnevny to dodge them, which is the goal there. This Fuso, gonna see if I can finish him. The Gnevny managed to dodge the torps and managed to torp in his turn, because of course he had the advantage of my fighter plane spotting all the torps for him. Once again, you see I'm dropping from a bit further away because I want to land at least 2 torps on him to make sure I can ensure the kill. Yeah, no chance for him to dodge it, the 2 torps, finish him. Now I'm gonna see if I can get the Koenig instead. They killed off the Kirov here, but once again, I'm once more just kiting, constantly kiting, full speed. My ship is sailing in a circle around the entire map. This Koenig is actually going to... I think the Koenig might be going to ground... this is not going to be a good drop. He started turning a bit too soon. I should have dropped closer, honestly. I think I'm only going to hit 1 torp here, because he's willingly grounding to dodge them. I don't think he can straighten out quickly enough from that. And that's really not the end of the world. I mean, it's not the optimal drop, but it's not that big of a deal. That guy can't really affect the battle much, sitting there. Our only battle... Where is our other battleship, actually? Oh, he's in the enemy base as well. Going in with the bombers now, on a barely moving target. He's gonna have a hard time dodging anything like this. Once again, dropping down the length. Stern to bow. See if he repairs. 2 fires ticking on him. Keeping an eye out on the top right corner. Still taking damage. No need to waste my other bomber as long as those fires are ticking. Oh, you see, the ticking stopped. I'm no longer taking damage. That means it's time to send my second bomber down there. Always keep an eye out on the damage number, because it lets you know as soon as they have repaired. And in this case, it let me know that he has used his repair, so it's time to send in the second bomber. And at the same time, I'm sending my torp bombers down towards the Bayern. And of course, I'm still using my fighters to spot for the Gnevny. If the Gnevny wants to smoke up and shoot at the Ioba from a smoke, I'm giving him that opportunity. Once again, dropping down the length. Unfortunately, I only got 1 hit, 1 fire this time, or 2 hits, 1 fire. RNG wasn't on my side, but hey, at least it's unrepairable damage, so it's going to be a full fire duration on him and nothing he can do about it. Meanwhile, I'm going to try to finish off the Bayern with my second squad. This ended up being a very close game actually, but thanks to, well, I basically sailed around the entire map at this point. Thanks to my constant changing positioning, they never actually caught me, and they could never hunt me down, and this allowed me to continuously strike and continuously refuel and repeat this striking pattern over and over again. Finished off the Bayern, who for some reason decided to stop to evade. It's one thing if you stop and turn in, but this guy basically just full stopped and didn't really, he called it, he said lucker, but it wasn't exactly that hard of a drop. And now the Koenig, it looks like he's repairing. We got 970 points. Let's see if I can actually secure this kill before he goes into hiding. Depends on which way he turns. Okay, he's turning left. He's trying to put the island between me and him, or between my planes, which is actually a pretty smart tactic. But I don't think he's gonna make it in time, so I'm actually gonna drop from the side. So if he tries to this tactic, I will actually catch him with this plane, with this torps. So basically his tactic, yeah, using it against him, since I know exactly what he's trying to do, and there's no way he can dodge those. And that's a flooding. I don't know if his repair is actually up, since he used it on the fires. If he doesn't use the premium repair, I don't think it's up, and it doesn't look like it is. And the final kill and the victory for my team. And that was a game that pretty much highlighted the importance of personal positioning when playing carrier, and how important it is to constantly keep on the move. You never ever stop, you never let the enemy catch you. Honestly, for a 200k damage game, my XP is pretty terrible, but that's because the new economy gives shit XP and shit money for carriers for some reason. I have no idea why. But I thought this would make a good commentary for the ship, because it highlights, as you move up in higher tiers, it's even more important that you learn how important your personal positioning is. Anyway, might as well move on to the modules and the general recommended build. Alright, as usual, I will start with the modules. The first thing, as there is no torpedo upgrade here, the first thing you should get is the Type 7 Mod 2, which will give you an additional fighter, giving you the 222 spec, which I value so highly. Next, upgrade your fighters, you got 2 of them, worth getting it fast. Upgrade the bombers, and finally get the hull. It doesn't really give you much, it gives you a bit of rudder shift and a bit of AA, but you'll need it on the way to the Shikaku, so might as well get it on the way. I'll recommend premium damage consumable. It's a small investment for how much it might save you. Upgrade wise, air groups mod 1, because the other one is pretty useless. And finally, this is where I make the switch from flight control to air groups. In the Hiryu, you only have 1 fighter, so I didn't consider it worth it, but when you get the 222 setup, I consider 20% of fighters HP to be very much worth it, and it gives you significantly more air superiority power, especially strafing and such. Finally, damage control systems and damage 2 to reduce fires, floodings and such. Captain perks wise, basics of survivability for the same reason, torpedo armaments for torpedo bombers, torpedo acceleration to make strikes easier, aircraft servicing expert, and of course saving up for air supremacy, which is what you want as soon as possible, especially since it's so strong for IJN CVs. Anyway, that was my Hiryu commentary. I hope you guys enjoyed it.